Today I'm working on this Boxster 986. We need to change all 6 spark plug tubes as they are leaking quite a bit of oil. Got a timing chain O-ring to replace as that's leaking as well. Triangle exhaust gaskets because the exhaust is blowing, and we've got to get the brake lights working and get this thing ready for a road trip. So let's get started on the spark plug oil tubes and see how we get on. So I'm gonna start by getting this trim out here, and that's gonna give us a bit more access to the spark plug tubes. We've got to do a lot of cleaning up here. But I think the biggest challenge of today is I'm at Barrow Motors. I'm not at my unit with my toolbox where I know everything is. And of course, all the mechanics here have locked their toolboxes, as you should. So I'm gonna be piecing together scraps of tools here and there. So I think we'll be making do. So let's see if we can find a 10mm socket and maybe a little impact gun to get these bolts off. 10mm, 1/4 inch, 3/8 gun. Hopefully we can find an adapter. Right, binning off the gun. 10mm. Now we can get our first kind of look at what we're gonna be doing here. So we've got to take all these coil packs out, and you'll notice that this one here is an older style coil pack. So if you see this kind of shaped coil pack, you can assume that it hasn't been replaced in a long time. There are a couple companies still making them in this shape, but they're usually on the cheaper end. Really what you want is one of these Baru coil packs, and I have bought 2 with me so we can give Joe a full matching set. To save filling these spark plug tubes up with all grime and brake cleaner and everything like that and just getting covered in oil, I'll give it a good scrub first, and then we've got kind of a clean slate to work from. So it is in fact silver under there. So it's not perfect, but it's a damn sight better than what it was, and it's good enough for what we're looking for. 5mm Allen we needed, and if you take a look, just like the socket set, we're missing the one we need. Man, it's so frustrating. Can't fit that one in there to get that bolt out. So you can see this one, made by Baru, but has the Porsche logo there. So this is a genuine Porsche coil pack. And I think when we went through the service history, this thing hasn't been to Porsche in quite a while. So it would stand that that is quite a few years old. Obviously working, not misfiring, but it'd be a shame not to put the updated version in when we're heading out on a nice big road trip. So this is the new version here. Obviously the size difference there. And this one isn't in too bad shape, but we've got new ones, so we'll get those in.
You don't look that happy.
What do you mean? I'm always a cloud.
It's a ray of sunshine.
I'm a ray of sunshine.
I thought you were like, oh God, I regret starting this now.
I don't. I am finding some challenges with the tools, but yeah. I think we're getting there.
A good tradesman doesn't blame his tools. You do have 100 horsepower more and like the best gearbox in the world.
A real driver never blames his car.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, it looks like the basis of a good kit was there, but yeah. Literally, we're walking out and want a 5mm, the only one missing.
Yeah,
it's a sod's law, isn't it?
That's the magic of that kit. It is a magic set. It's the one that you need is never there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which one it is, it's never there.
So what you kind of have to do here is with a pry tool, you can kind of just get on the mounting bolt hole for the coil pack, just stick it up in there, pry towards you, and there you go, you pop it out like that. The reason why we had oil all across the rocker cover is because these O-rings here were leaking. So 6 new tubes, new O-ring either end, and that should fix all of our oil leak troubles. And there's the new one side by side. Now that was quite easy to get out. And you can see that this O-ring, because it hasn't been deformed, is quite a bit bigger than the old one. These can be an absolute pain in the ass to get back in, so we'll get loads of engine oil on there and give it a good whack and see if we can get that in. So you got the cylinder, a machined surface of the cylinder head here, and then a gap, and in this area all your cams and your valves and everything.
Okay.
And then you got the outer edge of the rocker cover, and that tube is obviously just stopping the oil, so you can actually put a coil pack through without getting it. So this is
actual like internal engine components here.
Yeah, so this side and this side, you've got a camshaft spinning around. I think I said in the inspection, I don't think the rear main seal and IMS seal is that bad. Okay. What we are going to do is the time chain tensioners.
Okay.
So I'm still going to put the full timing kit in, lock the whole engine out, and then just replace those seals because they are the worst of the oil leaks. But you can always expect a bit of misting from them, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Mine does it. Loads of other cars do it. It's a big expense for a very minor weeping of oil, yeah. What I usually use is another pry bar, but I don't have one. Well, we're getting it done. Needs sufficient lubrication. So that's all 3 spark plug tubes fitted in there now. And all you need is a 27mm socket, in a big ass breaker bar. So what we were doing there is just putting the socket on the end of the spark plug tube, and the reason for that is I didn't want to put this pry bar edge on there and just break the quite brittle plastic. So you can kind of spread the weight of the pry bar with that, pop it on there, and with a bit of leverage you can just push the spark plug tubes in. So out with the old and in with the new. I think I'll chuck this one in here and I'll leave it in the car because it'll be sod's law that I'll put 2 new coil packs in, and halfway through our road trip one of the others will start misfiring, so we'll keep that as a spare because it's a known good one. But that's the new one, Beru, same as the other ones, and 2 new bolts as well. You do need these longer bolts because you'll notice that where the bolt passes through it's quite a bit deeper, so you need these extra long bolts to make up the difference. One of my biggest problems I face, I can never find the hole. So just putting these connectors back on, and when I took them off the first time round, the rubber boots weren't on there, they had slidden up the loom and they're out of sight. It is important to pull those down and get the boot fully over the plug, because that is kind of weatherproofing the plug. Because you can imagine all the rainwater coming up here, getting on the plug, and it'd be sod's law that the connector starts corroding and you end up with a misfire. So that's the left side done. Moving on to the right side, I'm going to set myself a little challenge. Time right now is, not sure if you see that, 24 minutes past 12. I'm going to see how quickly I can get these other 3 spark plug tubes done. So you can start to see what happens when those O-rings fail. You will get oil travelling down the spark plug tube internally until they hit the spark plug, which obviously isn't good for things. So there's the 3 spark plug tubes out there. So there you guys have it. Time is 12:48, so a little over 20 minutes to do 3 spark plug tubes, clean it all up and put the arch liner back in. So I think if you were doing the whole job, both sides, with getting the car on the ramp and taking the wheels off, you'd probably be looking at a little over an hour. So not too bad. So just before we start tackling the next oil leak on the Boxster, we did take delivery. So if any of you guys have heard of Hardtech, you're in the Porsche world, you know it's engines, so you don't want to have a stab at what might be in it, but I'll open it up, show you what's going on. Well, it's packaged a damn sight better than it was when I sent it to them. They did a great job there. What I've been returned back is my engine block, which already had liners fitted, but I had to rebuild the engine because the bottom end bearings started knocking. But they've measured all the bores, everything on it's absolutely spot on. And whilst it was there, I did pick up a set of Wasner forged pistons and £900 worth of motorsport racing bearings. First time I'm seeing these for myself. I've never fitted a set, but I believe these bearings are meant to be slightly wider than the factory bearing. Obviously more surface area you give the crank, the less likely it is you're gonna have a bit of pickup or maybe even spin one or wear them out. So Hardtech have labelled all these pistons because I had them measure the piston and the cylinder liner just to see if any material could be honed, just to make the bore a bit smoother. So they've kindly labelled everything, so we'll make sure we put that in cylinder 6.
Right, Ben tells me we need a new tyre on the front here. Now there's loads of tread, and I couldn't really figure out exactly why it needed changing. Crikey. But come around here, and Ben has pointed out the crack all the way around. Now, Ben may think he's a master mechanic, and Mike Brewer may have said he's a genius and offered him a job, trying to poach him from underneath me, but he can't change the tyre, so I've had to come save the day. But I have to come and help out sometimes. I'm far from an expert tyre fitter, but I'll give you my version of how this goes. We're going to get the old stem, centre, whatever you want to call it, out of the Schrader valve. We're going to use this thing to break the bead off. See all that like glue and rubbish on here. I'm probably going to have to clean that off in between putting the new tyre on. Doesn't bode well for how this car holds air. Spray a bit of water or something on here because all sticky and rubberised from that rubbish on here. That's one tyre off, full of crap on it. They've obviously had problems because you can see where they've had like a wire wheel on there before, trying to clean it all up in order to get a good seal. We do have some of this stuff, and it might pay to put some on just to be sure that we are going to seal, but we'll run the whizzy wheel, I don't know what you call it, around it first. The way you're hanging around, I feel like you want to learn this. You want to learn a bit from the master. I might have broken at it. Are they expensive? They look quite expensive. We're in safe hands here, my safe ham-fisted hands. That's a bit worrying as well, the fact that they've got wheel weights in opposite places. You should only have wheel weights in one place. Normally, we clean up the inside of these wheels so that you could re-stick your wheel weights. Considering they're so filthy, we'll just figure out where they need to go, and then we'll clean them. Normally, you just stick your knife in here and cut these off, but it's quite annoying that it's recessed. I can edit that to look smooth. Edit the sweat off me as well. Usually probably put something on there to protect that rim, but I don't think we're going to damage these. That's the stuff you were seeing stuck all over it. Joe's tyre training courses coming next week. Right, are they directional? Extra load, because I'm going to be driving it. Bit of tyre soap just to help us slide it on. Bit of lubrication, you know how it goes. This is where actually, I'll show you this thing should, look at it go. So now we need to balance this bad boy on a fully balanced wheel.
I'm going to have to drain the oil out of it.
You're going to?
I'm going to have to change those timing chain tensioners.
Okay.
Otherwise it will just fall out. Next up is the timing chain tensioner seal. So you can see this whole area is really wet. Now there's a slight bit of misting around the rear main seal IMS kind of seal area, but honestly that's really not too bad, and at this age you kind of expect it. So I think it would be kind of a waste of money at this point to go ahead and do those seals for such a minor leak. So what we've got to do is we've got to spin the engine into the right position so we can lock out the crankshaft, and then just up here on the end of the camshafts are two little rubber caps we will remove. We're going to slide the timing tool in there so the camshaft and the crankshaft are locked together, and that will allow us to take this timing chain tensioner out and just replace the O-ring that goes behind it. Pop that back in. We'll give everything a clean, all of this from when we did the spark plug tubes, and there should be a relatively leak-free engine after that. So with our very limited toolkit, I've not got anything to remove the oil filter, so I think we're going to try and use this ratchet strap and a spanner to kind of turn the oil filter housing and see if we can get it undone. You need the aluminium Porsche one really to get them off easy. So that bit there should be clicked into the bottom of the oil filter housing. Looks like it's been knocked loose at some point. And it is just a push fit once you get it to the bottom. So we're just going to get this under, we're going to do this timing chain tensioner. Going to drop this under tray off, get inside the car, take off the inspection hatch, put the crank pin in to lock the crank out, then put the timing tools in the end of the camshaft, and then replace the timing chain tensioner seal. And for oil leaks, that'll be it. And then after that, I'm going to do the triangle exhaust bolts. This one should be fine. It's been replaced at some point, but on this side, there is no bolt left. Not on this side, not on this side, so I think the blowtorch and a hammer is going to have to come out of this one to try and get those ones apart. So what I just took out there was one of these rubber caps, and when you take these caps out, you see the end of the camshaft, and then the end of the camshaft is a little slot that we can put our timing tool into, and yeah, remove the timing chain tensioner without worry of the engine losing its time. Fan-dabby-dozy, and that will reveal an inspection panel. So a couple of 10mm bolts there, and we'll be able to see the back of the engine. So what we're trying to get to is there is a hole down here in the crankshaft pulley, and now I'm about to remove this second timing cover, and that will give me all the lockout timing points I need to make sure the engine's going to be locked out, so when I take the tensioner out we don't skip all the timing. Just hammer a screwdriver in the end, just try not to go all the way through them, and obviously dig into the aluminium of the head, but you can just pop a little hole in the middle and usually just ping them out. And then when you fit them, they're only push fit. Nothing crazy going on there. As I thought, only the bottom camshaft has the slot in it, so this shorter one is the one I needed. So all we'll be doing is locking out one camshaft rather than two. You spend hundreds of pounds on a timing tool, and they've actually made the gauge of metal too thick for the opening in the camshaft, which I'm not impressed about. But the package did say made in Sheffield, so I'm not surprised.
Shots fired.
Sorry to anyone who lives in Sheffield. I don't think it was a million miles off, but maybe the thickness of like the powder coating that's on there and the fact that the gauge of the metal's wrong might contributed to it. I'm just gonna have to keep grinding it, I think, just to get it in there. Please, for the love of God. Hallelujah. Just slots in. So that goes perfectly into that thread. Painful. So all the fannying around has culminated in just turning one bolt and changing an O-ring. What we're gonna do, a big 32mm on this tensioner. There we go. So that there is a timing chain tensioner, and there's two of them on the engine. One of them goes from the end of the intermediate shaft to the cylinder head, and there's a tensioner that runs through here, and this just holds tension on it. This is what we've come to replace, all that faffing around for that O-ring there. And that's what was causing all that massive oil leak there. So I'm going to clear up this area, clean up this surface, so we've got a really nice surface finish so the washer doesn't leak on the new one, and yeah, put it back in. So the nice thing about using one of these is it doesn't remove any material, it's only going to remove corrosion. That is a Roloc disc, a Roloc bristle disc from 3M, and they're expensive, they're about 15 quid each, but providing you don't spin them up too fast, they last forever. So once you've got it tight like that, I'm now going to go get the torque wrench and we'll torque it down to the correct specification. So that works out a bang on 80 Newton meters, as I thought it was. And that's it. So there's two, but
the other one's not leaking.
It's not leaking, so let's not
prod the bear.
Let's not upset the apple cart here. Doesn't make sense when you start replacing things that don't really need replacing. So
she's never going to be perfect, is she, Ben?
Well, it depends how much money you want to spend. Now, I'm going to clean all this up now, make it spotless, and yeah, we'll jump on some exhaust gaskets if you got time. It's pretty late in the day now. So these are the replacement bungs. These are OE match ones from Design 911. So there you go. You can have the ID number, and they're just as good as the genuine Porsche ones, but they are push fit. So we'll grab two of those, and they just push right in. And all you do is they just slot right in. No effort. Very light bit of pressure. I don't necessarily recommend this tactic, but it does work if you're very careful. It's imperative that you remove this pin. I mean, I've never seen it happen, but I can imagine if you tried to turn the engine over with this pin in, you would almost certainly destroy the engine block where this pin slides in. And God knows what else would happen. The crank pulley would disintegrate and fall off. But with that pin out there, we can chuck this cover back on. Do you reckon the previous owner ever just tunes into his Ericsson tracker 20 years down the line, just curious to see where his pride and joy is now? Yeah, these aren't my favourite exhaust triangle gaskets to do, because I'm not sure if you can see here, the flange is actually made of two separate bits of material. So when you get a seized bolt and you heat it up and you start whacking on it, you actually separate the two bits of, flange material, and you end up warping the whole thing. So we'll see how we get on, put some heat into it, we'll get it glowing red hot, and with a bit of luck they won't come out with too much drama. Nice. Find ourselves a little punch, which I don't think we've got, so we will use a drill bit, which also isn't advised because drill bits can shatter. And be careful where you're pointing the flame, because you don't want to melt the rubber. That would be a terrible mistake. Careful! Yeah, so the top one isn't quite a 13. It's not rusted away enough to be a 12. So we're going to try and get a pair of grips on there or something. Best case scenario is we snap it, and then we can just tap it out. So going back to what I was saying on this side, this flange is made up of 2 separate materials here, and this was already cracking before I got here. And what happens is the stud inside gets rusty and swells up and actually cracks it on the corners. So as we've had to heat it up and knock the bolts out, these ends have chipped off. Not really the end of the world. These cat pipes in the long run will do, but probably needed replacing because of the welding that's been done on them. So we'll put some new gaskets in here and we'll use some thick washers to clamp all this together. It won't blow. Visually, it won't be that appealing, but you know, functionally it'll be fine. So the reason why these washers are so big is a 2-part thing. 1, they're the only ones we have, and 2, it does spread the load amongst these cracking joints. They're all falling apart, as you can see here on this side. So that won't leak. You know, it's got some exhaust paste in there and everything. But that is why the washers are so big. Not pretty, but functional. So that's the exhaust gaskets all fitted. I've lowered the car down now. I've got to put some oil in it. We'll run it up, we'll check those flanges, see if they're blowing or not, and if all is good, we'll tackle the brake lights. If we can get those working, we are ready for a road trip. So I asked Dan to get some oil, and he's gone and got Mobil 1, which might be a little too good for this car.
Nothing is too good for this car. Look at it. What is it, 0W40? And it's a shame it's not 5W30.
I know, you've got a drum of it over there, but...
we've got a drum of probably, let's say, Napa. Should be our preferred type of consumables. I'm
sure 530 would work, but I don't know enough about oil to guarantee that, so we'll stick to what we know. But I'm just going to chuck 6.5 in, because I know that's not going to give us any trouble. Then once it's up to temp, I'll check it. We do have a dipstick there, but I try not to use them, because what will happen is you'll get it bang on the dipstick, and all of a sudden, it will say overfilled on the digital display. So I'll just stick to what I know, put 6.5 litres in, and when it's up to temp, we'll do that final check. It may even take a whole nother litre. I think these things, when they're like a dry fill, is like 9 litres. And we have had the timing chain tensioner out, so that has, you know, it's dropped more oil than an ordinary service, but at 6.5 you can't go wrong. Little Shiwi for your oil. I don't know, I've never used one, but yeah, you can.
That's quite good. Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Very German, very over-engineered. I think I'm being a bit too ginger with this. We've not even made it past the 4 litre line here. Yeah, I'm just going to wing it. Well, I can't hear it pissing out the bottom. I was told this car was flat this morning, so I'm thinking with all the doors that have been open and whatnot, you've got a jump pack just to save setting the alarm off, just in case.
Someone wanted some top line equipment. Where would they go, Ben?
They would go to insideline.shop.
I'm impressed you actually know that. Well done.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my sponsorship deal, so.
Yeah, well, it's in the pipeline.
Ben 10, get your diagnostic tools, your RT diags, and your topped on jump packs. And these are the big boys, you know, these can stuck at a tractor.
Ben will personally sign the packing slip.
I will. It still sounds like it's blowing. Let's have a look.
Some people might say it sounds like it's blowing worse than it was before.
I can neither confirm or deny. So the issue we've got, where this flange goes round here, it's actually letting exhaust gases back down the other side of it. In fact, you'll see, this manifold doesn't even have that, so these have been replaced. It smokes just from the oil that sprayed everywhere. But these aren't even the same manifolds. We are going to have a little workaround now. So there's no nice way around this. Really, it needs a new manifold.
Not an option.
Not an option.
Time or financially.
The Bangonomics aren't making sense on that repair, so a Bangonomic repair is required. I think we're going to get chemical metal, and we're going to push it all the way down, all the way around, and seal this ring up, because we've got a road trip to go on, and even if this car deserved a new manifold, we're never going to get one in time. So it's a needs-must situation. Obviously, we're setting off on Tuesday. I'll come back on Monday and we'll sort this out. And the exhaust will be...
Better than new.
Better than new.
Yeah.
Better than new. So we'll update you on that as and when we carry out that repair. Not sure if this is coincidental, but I've just pulled out the brake pedal switch and that is the end of it. So I'm hoping the switch has failed. We'll pop a new one in and we'll see how we get on. I do need a pick and a torch because it's quite dark in there. Aha, handy. Shameless plug, the topped on V1500 with torch, which is exactly what I need right now. That's value. That is value. Both a jump pack and a torch.
Whee!
Brake lights have returned.
Well, we've got 2 of them. Not 3, but 2's enough.
What happens when you shut the lid?
Yeah, you still have 2.
You don't need a high third one for any MOT, so...
100% need better day.
Yeah, what even... Do you reckon... I reckon at some point that's been tinted with a spray clear coat and then the UV's got to it and it's just destroyed it. Day 2, obviously we needed some steel stick 2-part epoxy type thing to fix this exhaust. I am fully aware this is not the correct repair for the job, but time is ticking and we would never get a manifold in time. So I'm going to mix this stuff up, we'll get it in there. I think what happens the most on these cars is you've got 2 lugs on the rocker cover where you get a heat shield and 2 little M6 bolts go through. And I don't know how people do it, but they snap it off and in a pinch you can kind of mix up some of this, drill and tap it and it'll take a bolt to hold the heat shield back on. See, what would be better is a Napa Carlisle inspection lamp. Thumbing in a softie.
Thumbing in a softie, okay.
Yeah, so that's the correct, in the trade, you know.
Porsche technical term.
Porsche technical, yeah. Go all the way to Stuttgart to learn that one. So just trying to pack it out as much as we can. I think you give it 20 minutes, we'll be able to give it a start. See how well it holds up. In fact, it's already starting to go a bit stiffer in my hands. It starts off soft. And the more you work it, the harder it gets. Right, I think that's as much as I'm going to get in there. So with a bit of luck, after that's gone off, it won't blow anymore. Well, it won't blow as much as it did before because we've still got stuff like this to contend with. Half the reason why we are not using replacement parts. I'm a Porsche specialist, honest. So I'm going to leave this to set for 20 minutes, go away and have a coffee. We'll come back and if it's, we'll give it the test, we'll give it a poke and a prod, and if it seems like it's gone off enough, we'll start it up and check for any blows. With a bit of luck, we'll be good to go. So with that hardened off, I'll lower the car down now and see if we have managed to fix it. So we'll chuck the battery back on and you're going to want to make sure that this is in ignition too, because the alarm will go off when you reconnect it. And I would call that a successful repair. Now I can hear a blow from, in fact you can see the water just coming out there. It's blowing ever so slightly from this. So I'll nip up this clamp. So this smoke you can see here is just the exhaust paste burning up. It's the first time it's getting hot. But yeah, I can't feel anything at all. Mission successful. So whilst we wait for this thing to warm up so we can get an accurate oil level reading, I'm going to pop this trim back in. And what's happened here is to get these out, you have to remove these grommets, which will give you access to these Allens, and you back them out, and then you can just lift the trim up. So that Allen there just pinches onto this bit here. Obviously these guys didn't know that and they have just absolutely demolished it, but we'll be able to put it back on. Yeah, make this thing look sharp again. So with both those buttons now back in and these 2 bolts wound back out, we can plug this in and a bit of a, that's all clipped in, and tighten up. So that's the trim all plumbed back together nicely, and we will just get an oil level reading. So we've got 6.5 litres in there right now, and we're 2 bars off the bottom. So I'm thinking about half a litre, maybe a little less, and we'll be spot on. With the oil topped off and the exhaust properly bodged, we headed off on a road trip through sunny North Wales, comparing a £2,500 Boxster to a £25,000 987 Boxster S. So if you want to hear our thoughts and feelings on that, go ahead and watch Joe's video. Of course, a big thank you to Joe for inviting me on the road trip. It was such good fun getting to drive both cars back to back. We first headed off to Craiggoch Dam, and to my surprise, it was totally empty, but the backdrop was still totally worth it. From there, we headed up to Newborough Forest, to the most beautiful beach I've ever seen, and then we picked up some awesome driving roads on the way back to sunny Somerset. So the exhaust repair didn't last, but we are going to fit some new parts on there and get that exhaust absolutely mint, ready for its new owner. So if you fancy your chances winning either one of these cars, you can head over to Feel Good Competitions, get your ticket to win a 987 Boxster S, with the runners-up prize being, surprisingly, my preferred car, the 986 Boxster. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe.